Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of Don't Be a Loser. We will go over 5 relationship related comments. Remember that a loser is simply someone who gives up on love and lives miserable forever as a result. Let us begin, shall we? All right, let's go ahead to our first comment. Let's see what we have here. Men who abuse women should go to prison. Wow. Women who lie about men abusing them should also go to prison. Well, that's pretty extreme. That's kind of sort of extreme there. I mean, I agree that physical abuse and domestic verbal abuse that is just way out of line. I'm talking about extreme yelling. Everybody has their threshold, but, it all depends on a person's threshold, how much verbal abuse you can take, but definitely physical abuse, absolutely. They should at least go to jail, because you got to remember, being put in jail is to be detained and questioned to see what happened. And then if you go enough times to jail, then eventually, yes, I imagine under a court order, you get sentenced to prison. So it's not that easy. There is a process. There's a lot of injustice too in a lot of physical abuse cases. But with that being said, yes, but if you're screaming abuse when it's not really abuse, it's just a lot of verbal conflict, but it's not to the point where, it's not escalating to dangerous borderline physical abuse. It's a sensitive topic, but like I said, everybody has their thresholds. As long as they don't call a basic argument abuse, because arguments will happen in a relationship. They're very common. It's not necessarily something you should look forward to, but you should expect it. It's going to happen, most likely, okay? So let's go ahead and just judge the comment. Let's just go ahead and judge the comment as it is, because that's what it comes down to. Men who abuse women should go to prison. Well, I wouldn't say prison. That's very extreme. It depends. If it's physical abuse, eventually they will go to prison. But like I said, they have to go to jail first, multiple times, unfortunately, and then go through a court case. Women who lie about men abusing them should go to prison. That's very harsh. They would have to be chronically lying about a man abusing them, and even then just end the relationship and get out of there, right? I mean, but to go to prison, that's very extreme. This is in other words, this is not a well thought out comment. This is a very emotionally charged comment, is what I'm suspecting, and that's why it's written this way. It was written with just emotion and not, I mean, look, it's all in caps. Too much emotion here, not enough focus and concentration, because when you're dealing with cases, whether somebody, man or woman, should go to jail or prison, these are very strong accusations to begin with, and that's why it's called justice. There's a just system that's in place. I know it's held by the government, but it's all we have. So you don't want innocent people going to prison, most definitely, or even being jailed. Innocent people with false reports. So this is a very naive comment. I understand that. I agree 100% with the physical abuse, but I'm going to say that it's a loser's comment because it wasn't well thought of before they wrote this. This doesn't help anybody, understand? All it does is it spreads negative energy. Negative emotional energy to other people who they feel enraged by somebody who either is going through an abuse case or they've been lied to, meaning that somebody's lying about them abusing somebody else or their spouse or their girlfriend or boyfriend. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of different ways you can slice this apple. And so in other words, lying, just like they said, women. And most commonly it is women who lie about men abusing them. But, this is not a wide this isn't like large numbers we're talking about, and it all depends on the demographics and situations case by case. So I'm just going to label this a loser comment because it's not productive. it doesn't help anybody in terms of intelligence or wisdom. So let's go ahead and leave it at that. I mean, prison, my goodness. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. No offense to the poster, but they were just not in a good headspace when they wrote that comment. And that's what I don't appreciate. That's why I say a loser's comment, because they're missing everything. It's not productive at all. Understand? Dear men, stop waiting for an apology that's never coming. Accept what happened, take your power back, and move on quietly. Well, I mean, who are you to say move on quietly? I mean, maybe there's a lot to say about it. You mean just stop arguing and don't expect an apology from a narcissistic woman? Or an abusive woman, or a bad situation, bad relationship? I mean, if that's what you're saying, sure, but sometimes an apology might come. Now, okay, let's go ahead and give the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go ahead and slap a fair sticker on this one. It's a fair comment. I understand what they're trying to say. Stop waiting for an apology from, let's say, a narcissistic woman who just, they don't care. They're never going to apologize. They're just going to be set in their ways. They only care about themselves, like a typical narcissist. Yeah, it's never coming. You'll never get your apology. The one that you deserve, by the way. Accept what happened. It is what it is. Many times there's nothing you can do about it. So it is a fair comment. Take your power back. Yeah, just salvage what you can and move on. But you don't have to move on quietly. I disagree with that part. So not exactly a winner statement here, but it's a fair statement. I for the most part, I agree. I get it. It is what it is. Okay. So the third comment here on our show today, a hot take. They have so many of these. You're not ready to be in a relationship if you're not ready to be vulnerable. And stay off the market if you need time to heal. Okay. Yes, I absolutely agree with this. This is our winning comment. Yes, absolutely. You need to be vulnerable in a relationship. I see this with toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. Toxic people who are afraid to be more feminine or be more masculine. I'll describe that. So a woman who's afraid to take charge, they act like a damsel in distress 24/7. They need you to hold their hand through everything. No, men want a strong woman, mentally and emotionally and physically strong woman, preferentially, to be able to fend for herself, but not like a bossy woman. Nobody wants a bossy woman, with an attitude problem. So don't mistake that type of strength for something positive. It's not. It has its positive and its negative. Yes, and for men to be more feminine, to cuddle more, to talk about your emotions more. All that toxic masculinity is, I'm a man of few words. I don't need to say anything. Just an attitude problem. And that's really toxic because communication is key in a relationship. And if you can't be on your feminine side, which is really masculine, if you ask me, the ability to communicate your feelings, soft and strong, the ability to empathize with your girlfriend or wife, you need to be able to put yourself in her head and her shoes, understand where she's coming from, how she might be feeling, and that requires for you to be in touch with your feminine side. You have to care for each other, and the only way to care for each other in a relationship is to be in touch with each other's natural side. So she needs to be in touch with her masculine side when it comes to stepping up to the plate and defending you and protecting you and serving you like a man would serve a woman. Vice versa. It always goes both ways. So vulnerability, absolutely. I don't really see it as vulnerable. Because vulnerability, kind of points towards something that you might be a little ashamed or embarrassed. No, there shouldn't be any shame or embarrassment. Just speak your feelings. Be vulnerable is to be open, communicative. Very deep down inside, what is it that you really feel? Don't lie to each other and don't play games and don't put on a facade. Don't act like you're so tough, whether you're a man or a woman. When you're around each other, be open. If you want to hug a stuffed animal in front of your woman, go ahead and hug a stuffed animal. Who cares? Nobody's going to judge you. You're not less masculine for doing so. or calling your woman a sweetie, or getting all cutesy with her. No, be open, be vulnerable, be happy. My goodness, there's so much to be unhappy about in this world. You know, when you're with your partner intimately, be happy. And also, I agree with the statement, stay off the market, which means don't be looking for a potential partner if you need time to heal. Absolutely. That's what makes this comment such a winner statement. You need to take time. I don't care if it's a year or 2 years maximum. Some people, they're so traumatized they need 5 years living alone. But I disagree with the losers who say, I'm going to live forever alone. All they're doing is coping. They're severely hurt and they're coping with their pain. So check back on them in 5 to 10 years. If they haven't healed and they insist on living alone, miserable forever, then now you're a loser. You turn from a victim into a loser because you're losing. You're not winning in life. The only path to 100% happiness is through a lifelong loving partner. And that's the end of that. Anybody who argues otherwise is a miserable loser. And that's just the truth. It's been proven time and time again that love is everything in this life. The more you ignore it, and the more stubborn you are, the Scrooge attitude, the more it's going to come up and bite you in the butt decades from now when it's too late. You know, too little too late. If you ever do anything about it in the realm of love, your love life. All right, fourth comment of the show. Dating at 42 is another kind of hell. Why does it have to be a hell? All this negative thinking, I swear. Men under 38. And what's the obsession with numbers? Why does everything have to be such lockstep? You know, it's everything is just locked in. Like, oh, this age bracket, this obsession with numbers, this age and ages, right? It's ridiculous. Men under 38 are still developing their frontal. Oh, stop with the science. Frontal lobe. Says who? Says who? I disagree with science on a lot of things when it comes to relationship. I mean, I can tell you that. I don't care about the frontal lobes. Everybody is different. Everybody matures faster or slower or the same average as. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And I've seen a lot of older people act more immature than younger people. I've seen younger people act extremely immature, and kids younger than them and people older than them. It's a mixed bag. You can never generalize an age bracket. You just can't. Everybody comes from different walks of life now more than ever in this internationally interdependent world we live in, like it or not. So enough with the frontal lobe nonsense. Okay, so their bracket is 39 to 46 years old, dealing with that first, second divorce with kids. You're just assuming that's the case for that bracket. Why so much assumption? See, that's where I draw a problem right there. 46 to 51. See, they're so obsessed they got to continue on to another bracket. Are the lost years, therapy, custody, work, hell, and there's that word again, hell. That's twice. You're obsessed with the word hell. Your mind is in the gutter. It's in the loser's bracket. They come back at 52, a decade older than me and grown, but too tired to keep up with me. Oh, so there we go. Nobody can keep up with you, right? You're in the 39 to 46 bracket and you're complaining about older people not being able to keep up with you. Well, keep up with you how exactly? Why are you just so magnificent and everybody else is dealing with their own hell with custody therapy and they can't keep up with you? This is just nonsense. This is an overgeneralization, and I definitely don't like it. It doesn't help anybody. It only adds more fuel to the fire of ignorance, and I'm going to slap it with the loser sticker. Boom. That's what you get because that's what you have. That's what you deserve. With this type of attitude, of course, nobody can keep up with your nonsense. All you're doing is whining about generalizations that you've already made your mind up about. You're stereotyping. I've seen mature 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds mature. And all of them have all different types of immaturity and maturity combinations. Unpredictable. Everybody in this world is completely unpredictable. Unless they insist on playing a character, an evil character or a fake character. Sure, but that's borderline psychotic. Who would want to act in this world? You know, just live your life, be who you are. My goodness. So, yeah, what a loser comment there. Really bad. It doesn't serve. And this type of toxic comments are everywhere online and social media. And some people talk about them in person. Just complete ignorance, complete ridiculousness. All right, I think we need to create a separate dating app called Figuring Out My Dating Goals. Really? FOMDG. Nice. That's really cute. So that everyone who is unsure can go figure it out with other people who are also unsure. You mean they don't know what they want? A dating app? Number one, you need to stop dating, especially online. That's not going to work. You need to get your butt out there and meet somebody of the opposite sex, see how things go, get to know them first. Dating is for rushers, for people who like rushing in life. The more you rush, the more you'll trip. The tortoise always wins the race, not the hare, the rabbit, right? The turtle. Now, don't go too slow in life, but it's safer to go slower than it is to go faster. And that's what dating is. She can be looking her best, behaving her best, and you too, and it still maybe doesn't work out because it's just playing a persona when you're dating. You need to just simply get to know this person and don't be in a rush into becoming partners. You need to make it clear that, hey, I'm looking for a potential partner, but friendship, right? Whatever happened to friendship? You know, you guys have to become best friends. And then let's see if, you know, but you don't have to take years to get there. It depends. It depends. To each their own. But yeah, this type of comment here, let's go ahead and see how we can judge this. Another app, nobody needs another app for people who are really confused. What these people need is to go to my website, payhip.com/perfectsoulmates, grab themselves either both my digital book and video in the Perfect Soulmate Solution or one or the other. Because that's a great start. Let's go ahead and slap a... Well, you know, this person is obviously frustrated because they're on a dating app and they're not, they're meeting people who don't know what they want. So they're frustrated. It's not exactly a loser comment. You know, there's not an attitude problem here. They're just frustrated. So I'm going to slap a fair sticker on this one. There's nothing necessarily painfully wrong about this. They're just complaining about the dating app with too many people who don't know what they want. So that's what I'm going to slap for this comment, the last comment of the show. Let's go ahead and conclude, shall we? All right, so if you have a comment that you would like for me to go over on this show, please put it down in the comment section down below. And this has been Coach Ben's Don't Be a Loser. Much love, everybody.